What's the cherry doing on the cake, Toastmaster Jagannath?
An idea is nothing without the presentation of the idea. That's why not all scholars can be teachers. Teaching is not about how well you know a subject. Instead, it's about how well you can present the subject. That's why the best maths teacher is not the one who is best in mathematics. Instead, he is the one who can present the mathematics he knows the best. The presentation of an idea is as important, if not more, as the idea in itself. Having muscles alone is not enough. A bodybuilder should know how to show his muscles. End of the day, if a wash basin is just a wash basin, why go for an Italian design sanitary ware? Why is the packing material as important as the material content? Why do gifts have to be gift wrapped? Why the satin ribbon that cost just a few bucks over a car that cost you a bomb of money? Why is showcasing so important? Why do you have to look so presentable, irrespective of what your resume states about you? Why are elevations and facades so important to a building, irrespective of its engineering? Why is the success of a product so very dependent on the product launch? It's all about the finishing touches. Call it human frailty, but the fact remains that people form an impression of you the very first time they look at you. The adage that the first impression is the best impression is probably as old as our civilization is. The tone and vocabulary of a public transport bus conductor certainly varies from one person to another, depending upon the way he's dressed. It's not you, but the way you carry yourself that takes you past the security staff and then the receptionist and finally the secretary before you meet the CEO of a multinational corporation. I mean, just think about it. Even the players who you support, be it in the Indian Premier League or be it the English Premier League, it's just a matter of a player wearing a team's jersey. With a change of jersey in 2003, when David Beckham was no longer identified with Manchester United and was instead identified with Real Madrid, you changed your opinion to support the team. Surprisingly, the team that you support, it changes so much on just based on just the color of that team's jersey. It is all the more evident that more than you, it is how you present yourself. That's what defines what your personality is. And even if you're one among those idealistic folks who have this argument that I am who I am, irrespective of how I present myself, then my dear friend, please do remember that even here, it is the way you present your argument that's probably more important than the merit of your argument. Else, even your argument will not prevail. Speaking of argument and communication, research suggests that overall communication is perceived 59% visually. That's how you look and how your body language is. About 38% vocally, that's how do you sound and how do you speak. And mere 7% verbally. That's the very words that you carefully choose to pen down your script for sometimes as long as 7 weeks. It is ironical, but the truth is, how you deliver your message is more important than the message itself. Without how, what you say is absolutely meaningless. That's why most differences in relationships or other forms of communication gaps, they don't arise because of what you say. Instead, they arise because of how do you say it. Because what you say, that goes to your mind. But how do you say it, that goes to your heart. And there is no way to win the mind without winning the heart. And why limit ourselves only to the human interactions? I think the same principle applies if you look at books as well. It has been recently discovered that a typical Sunday edition of the New York Times contains more information than what was published in the entire 15th century. And in the last 2 decades, about 2 million books have been published in the US alone as compared to 1.3 million books published in the entire preceding century. So, in the current context, the idiom of the 1940s, don't judge a book by its cover, no longer holds good. The hands of a potential reader will not even stretch to pick up a book from the book rack of a bookstore for the want of presentation of that book. A lot of books, a lot of exceptional books have not left the bookstore for want of presentation of the book. Sure, the contents of a book is very important for the existence of the book in itself. But then, the look and the feel of the book can make a remarkable difference to that book. Although a book is valued for what it contains, but my dear friend, a book is bought in the first place for how it looks. You can no longer walk to a coffee shop and just order coffee. It's no longer a simple decision. White or black, espresso, latte, mocha, decaf, cinnamon, with or without cinnamon, skinny cappuccino, and not to mention the choices in cup sizes and the various types of sweeteners available. By just innovating and improvising the presentation of coffee in its various variants, the coffee shop is a multi-billion-dollar industry today. Coffee is no longer coffee, in fact. Coffee is a designer product today. The coffee costs you X bucks, and the variants of the same coffee cost you N times the X bucks. And you know what the truth is? The truth is that the market is willing to pay the extra bucks for that presentation. Presentation of food is really important. The right set of glasses, the right set of plates, the right topping, the right proportion, the right placement, the right cutlery. And then there is a way to serve and a way to eat as well. Presentation of the food must first look good, incredibly good in terms of its presentation. It has to appeal to your eyes. Then next, the food has to smell good. Unless the judgment is passed in favor of these 2 senses, it will not even matter if the food tastes good. And then comes as an afterthought if the food was really healthy or not. So, from these observations and the little anecdotes that I spoke about, let's try answering the question, what is design? I think design is that finishing touch which appeals to our senses before it can appeal to our intelligence. And there's no way you can bypass your senses. So, please do raise your hand if you now agree with me that for any given event, the chief judge chair's color has to be different than every other chair's color. If you do agree, please raise your hand. Thank you so much. Similarly, again raise your hand if you agree that it is absolutely necessary to have a spotlight in place if you are talking about any form of award function. Thank you so much. I used to wonder earlier, what's that cherry doing on the cake? I think I'll no more ask that question. Will you, Toastmaster Sai?